morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million strategy roundtable for entrepreneurs. 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue, build $1 trillion in global GDP and 10 million jobs. And in support of that mission, we do these free mentoring roundtables week after week after week. And it's been year after year after year. This is the 450th episode of the 1M1M Roundtable. We started back in the fall of 2008 with an experiment, and that experiment has blossomed into a global virtual accelerator that is widely distributed, and entrepreneurs from all over the world are coming nowadays. So it's been over 100,000 participants. So major milestone, this event is being recorded. Every single recording is available on our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtable. You can go and check out. If you have time to kill and you're looking for some learning material, it's great to listen to these roundtables. If you are live tweeting the show today, please use hashtag 1M1M. We also publish great content through our Twitter handles, 1M1M and Romana. Feel free to subscribe and you'll have access to all that. This is a roundtable, not a broadcast, so we want you to participate as much as you would like. And these are the call-in numbers. I will put the slide back up a little bit later after we are done with the scheduled programming, so you can dial in and we can talk about whatever you wish to talk about. We are going to start today's roundtable session with a conversation with Rahul Chandra, Managing Director of Unitary Helion Ventures. Rahul, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Maureen. Pleasure to be here.
So Rahul, let's get you introduced to our audience. Tell us about yourself and about Unitary Helion. What are you investing in? What is the investment thesis? And so on.
Sure. Thanks, Maureen. So Unitary Helion Ventures is a new venture fund, which I co-founded with my partner, Bala Srinivas, after investing out of a fund called Helion Ventures for 12 years, which was also an India-focused fund. And Unitary Helion Ventures is a fund that we are starting with a more specific focus on the areas that we have learned more about or understood better over the last 12 years of investing. And we're trying to keep that focus also on India, but we are trying to go deeper into what is middle India for us, which is next 400 million Indians. And it's been, the last 12 years has been a good journey of learning and also helping several companies. And those learnings are what we are expecting to put to good use with the next set of founders that we back.
All right. How big is the fund?
So the corpus is 100 million, Maureen, and the fund is something that is going to invest in early stage. Of course, our typical check size would be in the 2 to 4 million. We are expecting to do mostly Series A's in this. And as you know, like I said, it's an India-focused fund, so what applies to us with these check sizes is more the ground reality in India. Even though it's fast-changing, but that's the check size that is typical for something that can get us into a Series A deal. And we expect to build a portfolio of about 16 to 18 companies. It is a hands-on fund, what we have done in our past lives, which is to work very closely with our startups and founders. So we want to keep it more narrower. And have the bandwidth to work with each and every founder and do our bit to make these companies successful.
So, Rahul, if you could go back to Helion and give us a few examples of the kinds of companies that you're talking about would be your primary focus in this fund that you already invested in and had experience with in Helion. We know Helion very well. We've had Ashish here before, and I've known Ashish for many, many years. So go ahead and give us a little bit of an illustration of what you mean by your more focused investment thesis.
Sure, Shmana. So, as you know, and Ashish has mentioned this, Helion started in 2006. The landscape at that time was very few VC firms which had an entrepreneur first mindset. It was still an evolving phase of the industry. The funds that were investing were coming more from backgrounds of fund management versus the more typical Silicon Valley style of working alongside founders. So that, I think, spirit continues in Unitary as well. But also Helion was a bigger fund. We started with a $140 million fund, then our second fund was 210, third one was 250. So as our fund size increased, so did our areas of coverage. And we also were going through a phase in India where digitization was minimal to begin with. We were still investing in a phase where we had to cater for people booking tickets through a phone call for a bus. And though that multi-channel customer acquisition stage, we actually saw it change slowly and then very quickly from 2011 onwards. So from 2006 to 11 was a very slow stage of adoption. And of course, the percolation of digitization in India. But our thesis, of course, changed in 11. But what it led to over the last 12 years was multifaceted. So we were investing, again, more similarly to a Silicon Valley fund, which is consumer enterprise and consumer internet specifically. So as you can hear from these are fairly broad terms. And since you know both sides very well, which is Silicon Valley and India, you know that the depth that you can get to in a particular vertical in terms of the disruptions that are happening and the kind and range of companies that you could get to invest in the valley is far deeper. And India, some sectors have evolved quite nicely, but still it is a more shallower space. So expansion in multiple areas actually leads to some form of dissipation of value add that a VC firm could do, is what we felt. So Unitary has had experience in certain areas which have done very well, and the common thread across these companies that did very well was that they did not run into the classic scale-up wall. And of course, we have seen high cost of customer acquisitions in India, retargeting of the same middle-class consumer who has, that same consumer has been targeted by every company, leading to high cost of acquisitions and of course churn, because the actual customer needs were sometimes met, or sometimes the customer was just experimenting. These were again in the early stages of digitization in India. But the learning from all this is that the top 100 million consumers are the most targeted, because they're also the ones with the deepest pockets in India, and of course they are the ones who are adopting faster than the others. But what happens in that top 100 is that you do run into scale issues, and the cost of acquisition, of course, sometimes makes it unviable to have that customer, and then when scale issues happen, then it becomes a double whammy. So what we saw as a common thread on what worked well, where scale was, well-spent acquisition and companies scaled really well, was where the companies were targeting the middle part of India, which is the next 400 million. And here the gaps are so wide again, and the demand is so unmet that customers tend to to actually seem like an infinite pool. And the challenge with targeting this segment earlier was that, of course, number one, the percolation of digitization, which in the last 3 years since Geo happened has been sorted out. And I think the cost of acquisition is linked directly to the cost of bandwidth and, of course, the number of smartphones. I think everyone's very familiar with what's happening in India in terms of the price of bandwidth and the price of a smartphone. So adoption is getting pushed by multiple factors, and we feel that tailwind on those will continue. There will be more and more spread of being able to get online. So this is one, of course, entry barrier which has been lowered over the last 3 years, which gives us a better access to the next 400 million. Second thing is that...
Before you go on, Rahul, on this topic.
Sure. Sure.
What are the customer acquisition channels that are producing for this type of customer, the next 400 million? Are they searching on Google? Is it a vernacular-speaking customer, and you have to, think about those kinds of points in acquiring those customers? Is it primarily a mobile advertising customer? What is the customer acquisition strategy for these?
So it's a mixed bag is what we're seeing. It's sometimes a case of a mobile a part acquisition through a Google or a Facebook, and a conversion through a face-to-face. So there are some models, especially in education, where feet on street sales force is very important, and we're seeing that to be where higher tickets are involved, where it's usually an annuity customer. It's usually a combination of these two. So that, of course, drives up the cost of acquisition to plus 100. The second thing we are seeing change from the 100 to the next 400 is that B2B2C is actually becoming very relevant, because, I was going to this point, but the digital rails that India now has in terms of the identity management or the onboarding, the cost of those have come down significantly over the last 3 years, which actually allows you to access your business channel partners to then acquire their customers and bring them on board. So we are seeing, for example, data companies giving access to credit companies, where in combination they are then attacking. We're seeing a weather company give weather data to, or actually, work with a startup which is working on insurance products for the rural agri side of the business. So we're seeing these combinations happen. Banks, traditional Indian banks, are opening to digital wealth management companies, their customer base. So we're seeing a lot of these marriages happen in the B2B space, which is then, keeping costs low as well. I think the third channel that we are seeing, of course, that for the lighter content type companies, where the sign-ups are lighter, where the fees is minimal or zero, and churn is higher, we are seeing customers come in through campaigns which are more brick and mortar. So there is some, variation, or the fan kind of opens up more in terms of how the channel open up for customer acquisitions versus the top 100 who were, Facebook was one of the most cost efficient channels. And here you have to keep costs low. We have also seen one company we have invested in where the partnership with a mobile phone brand has actually been very productive in customer acquisition, because there's also a shift in the market share of the phone brands, and the business models of the phone companies are now participating in growth beyond selling the hardware. So the layering of the subscription models on top of the hardware cost then allows several software companies to go and access the customers that a 30% market share company in India can then give access to. So surprisingly, some of the cost of acquisition we are seeing gets dropped to as low as $2 to $3 of a paying customer. So we are seeing significant drops in customer acquisition costs.
And geographically, are we talking about non-major metros now?
We are absolutely, we are talking about the next at least 50 towns and cities where, especially if you travel there, you're seeing the change happening. There is certainly a mindset that a VC needs to change when they think about a customer in these parts. But when you go there, I came back from a tier 2 city probably, and it's not a state capital. And when you go there and talk to younger people, there is even a higher felt need for accessing some of these services, which have not reached these parts. Of course, the Flipkart story of retail infra not being present in India, but doing the digital leapfrogging for e-commerce in India also then translates to several other products and services. And again, the acuteness of that problem is higher when you go to these the next 15 from 15 onwards to the 50th city. And purchasing power, of course, is concentrated in 4 areas. So a bulk of the wallet share goes to agri or food consumption. So surprise, not as a surprise, but entertainment as a share of the wallet is far lower here. But food, transportation, mobility, and spending on financial savings and investments, those dominate, and 75% of the wallet share then is represented in these 3-4 buckets.
And so what kind of application areas are you focusing on? Is fintech the top one?
We are absolutely seeing the marriage of the size of that opportunity and the adoption as well. So the $2 trillion opportunity, which is probably the biggest in India, is fintech. And but fintech also marries itself really well. As I was mentioning, we've seen a data company or a weather company marry itself to an insurance tech company or to a credit company, and we're seeing those marriages happen very successfully, or at least the initial look of it is quite encouraging. But fintech does represent the if you go through the common slice, that's the widest opportunity pool that we are seeing. Yes, and healthcare tech is seeming to be a very large opportunity, but we are seeing pockets of innovation. But the theoretical construct of marrying computer vision with with patient data, that combination seems very promising. We're seeing several AI companies address that, but we're not seeing as of compared to fintech opportunity, the timing of that seems to be a year or two further into the future.
Yeah. Now, can you synthesize the role of Jio? Jio is making huge investments with the assumption that they can give out their device and services for free and monetize on data. So this, what you're talking about, revenue sharing of subscription services and so forth, how much of that has kicked in gear for Jio, as in, is Jio making money of these subscription services and so forth? Is the Jio story going to end well by your assessment?
Yeah, it's a very future-oriented question, but as market leaderships go, and what we have seen traditionally, owning the market obviously changes the rules of the game, and we have absolutely seen that where the other players have scrambled in the last few years to play by the new game in telecom in India. And Jio is making those new rules as the market leader. I think again, it's early days, I think, for the marriage, because last few years we have seen them take market share from everyone. And unlike Western markets, also in telecom, the story is about not so much taking market share as much as it is creating a new market. So, what Jio has really done, and that's, that's again a focus for us, is to create a market which did not exist before. So, I think the coffers are deep, and I think there is a lot of firepower. So, we'll have to watch this space for a while to see the end story. But, I think market leadership is certainly a good place to be for the next few years.
And do you have a company in your portfolio that has been able to leverage the Jio channel effectively yet?
Across the board, actually, Smana. It's not singular. It's where we have actually seen that, and you would have seen this, heard this from other participants from India. where the vernacular story and the data access, economists just carried a story of, the time pass economy, and, of course, that has been enabled by, at the ground level by the cost of data. So, that is well understood. But from our portfolio, even where it is not so much, the time pass economy, but, again, building better travel apps for the next 400 million, where, their, priority modes of travel, which is not the plane, not a flight, but a bus or a train, or a shared taxi company where the first thought is, oh, the car is too expensive for me, but I'm okay to sit pillion on a bike. Some of those models are transactional economies which are getting driven by the geo adoption. So clearly the effects we are seeing are far and wide, and we have we are seeing data. Yeah. Sorry, I missed that. Could you repeat, please?
I said very exciting. What's happening is very exciting. I think it's not only a tremendous opportunity. It's really exciting to see the population completely change its modes of behavior and adopting new ways of engaging with services, and efficiencies being introduced, access being improved. It's really, really superbly exciting.
It's mind bending, actually, and we waited very long for this, so it's finally happening. It's the sheer power of seeing so many people adopt at the same time is just we just tell ourselves that we wish it had happened sooner, but it's happening now. So it's very exciting point at this time. Yeah.
Whenever is fine, as long as it happens.
Yes.
So do you want to talk about a couple of companies that you've invested in that you are particularly excited about? What are they doing? What value proposition are they providing? And what are they experiencing in penetrating the market? Sure.
And I'll talk about a mix of, we are saving some of the new names from Unitary for a formal announcement later in the year. But, I'll cover some of them without the names, and of course the Helion portfolio that I'm managing is also doing really well, so I could talk about some of those experiences. So, I could start with Topper, which is a ed tech company out of Bombay, in Mumbai, and the business is really a learning app which is built because schools which have 50 students in a class, personalized learning is not even something which we can talk about in those kind of classrooms, where 70% of the students are being left behind, concepts are not being revisited, and personal assessment is something which is very hard and physically difficult to do. And with personalized learning apps like Topper, the app is learning with every question answered, where the concepts need to be reinforced or revisited. And the power is being shifted over to the students, where they are able to then access multiple times without worrying about getting standing up in class. Concepts that that they could ask in a live class, and this is again the power of bandwidth, right? Of a geo, where 3 years back we would traditionally think of this as running a live class. How many people would have that kind of bandwidth, etc., etc. But now a large part of the learning at Topper is happening through live classes. Live doubt solving. So after school, students are back in an online classroom where a high quality teacher is actually addressing, and this is again with the background of what the student has been doing in the past through their engagement with the app. So this is a good example of again how the adoption and the app interaction is now blending between what is live and what is what is a low bandwidth engagement and what is a high bandwidth engagement. So
this is a company that's selling to schools?
They actually sell directly, but it's a personal subscription. The parent pays typically for the year, and it's 6th grade to 12th grade, and then for specific exams in India. But we are seeing, so the telling number there is the engagement that people, the students are spending on the app. The time that they're spending on it, one easy way to describe it, it exceeds Instagram time spent. So we clearly think that this is more interesting or more useful, where students are getting to, unless they're opening both at the same time and we are doing something wrong. But we are seeing a high degree of engagement per day, and it's daily usage, multiple hours spent on the app, and accessing, apps over continued periods. So the drop-off rates are lower, and there is very high degree of daily engagement. So
Rahul, I have a question on stage in how you're investing. So take this example. What stage and with what proof points does an entrepreneur need to come to you for you to want to invest in something like this?
Sure. So the Unitary, the Unitary parameters that we look at, we feel that there is far more angel capital and far more institutionalized seed capital now available in India from the last 7-8 years. So in terms of Series A VC going into seed, we generally like to stay in the Series A zone. The expectations in that round for us is that the company has already raised half to a $1 million round, and they have a product with some traction. So what we are trying to also do more of, which we had not done earlier, is to actually rely a lot on analyzing the customer engagement data. And the idea is to then predict the single most important question at a high level, which is the product market fit, and what are the trends towards that. So we could be looking at apps which are trending towards a better fit or actually diverging away from it. So the main idea for us is to get enough engagement data that we can then use to predict what kind of engagement are we seeing. That helps us in two ways. One is, it kind of confirms the size of the round, i.e., if this is if this is still at a stage where we'll need to, keep moving towards finding that fit, or is this at a stage where we can start pressing on the pedal? And both need different kind of investors or different kind of rounds. So it also helps us plan the round better, and then also plan the the next 1 year for the company a little better. But an ability to look at traction, is important for us.
Looking more at engagement to assess whether the product has found its sweet spot, and then you can throttle it with the customer acquisition money to get it in the hands of more people. But what you're looking for is really the product fit.
Yes, mindset-wise, we go in thinking, okay, less experimentation on the product, more company building. So we shift the focus from product to company building if the fit is there or near term. And otherwise, we do budget for more experimentation till we get it right.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, we should keep talking, and we should check in from time to time and see how this is all moving and so forth. But this was fascinating and really thrilling to see what's happening. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
No, thank you for having me, and hopefully next time we talk, we'll have lots of successful startups, and of course India continues to throw more Flipkart type stories in the next few years.
Well, yes, absolutely, but also, maybe stuff that is a bit more reasonable from a, capitalization point of view, because I do believe that if the whole scale game is about overcapitalization, then not too many companies would be able to do that. Whereas I think that with 400 million consumers to tap into, there needs to be a lot of companies who come out of that market opportunity. All right.
Absolutely. No. Yes. Thanks so much, Ma. Thanks for having me, and wish you all the best for the next 500.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to switch to the entrepreneur pitch section first. Let me set a bit of expectations here. This is a safe working session. We are on your side. There's absolutely no other agenda here besides helping you accelerate your journey. So don't feel nervous, don't feel defensive, just talk about what issues you're trying to resolve, and we'll try to provide input accordingly. It is possible that you may disagree with the feedback you get. That's fine. It's your venture. You will decide how you want to play the strategy game, and just listen, take the feedback into account, process the feedback, and decide what you want to do with it. One thing you do need to remember is not all businesses can raise money. Raising money does not guarantee success. And there are lots of, rules of engagement in the raising money game. There are certain goals that traditional VCs have. They're trying to go from $0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years. Your venture may or may not have those characteristics, but just because it doesn't fit the VC model, if it fits the VC model, great. If it doesn't fit the VC model, there are other ways of building successful companies. So do not lose sight of the fact that there are many options, many paths to success. So we are going to start with our first entrepreneur, Soya Somanathan. Soya, please come online and talk about what you're working on.
Hi, Shamla. Hello, everybody. Let me just start off by introducing myself. I'm Soya Somanathan. I'm based out of Chennai, which is a city in southern India. I have over 12 years of work experience, primarily in customer service, pre-sales, and operations. I also did a 3-year stint where I ran a web design company along with 2 partners. Currently, I work as an account manager in a software company, and the application that I would like to present today is called Empower. So this is basically for the education vertical, and this is a sort of a career counseling app. The idea for this app, Shamna, next slide, please. The idea for this app basically came from the fact that I have a child with a learning disability, and while I'm struggling to help him figure his way forward, I thought, what are the possible options out there? And while I was thinking about those things is when I thought about this particular application. So the current education system is geared towards marks. Marks in a wide range of subjects. My son is in 3rd grade. He needs to learn 4 languages with a learning disability. It's quite a challenge for an 8-year-old. And most children out there, once they finish their 12th grade, you can just pick and choose. It's either engineering, or it's medicine, or it's CA. These are primarily the main fields that most children focus on, and not everybody can be, the first rank holder. So This application is geared towards helping children see what are the possible career options out there in this world, and what are the things that you can map with your skills, your passion, and take it forward. So that is, on a broad scale, what this does.
Okay.
Shamna, next slide. Thank you. So the way forward is, one, you could reach out directly to children, and I'm really, really worried about security when it comes to kids. So I felt the target audience should be schools and colleges. So that way we could monitor a lot about what children are doing online. And so the partnership should be through schools and colleges. At least that's what I feel at this point. I spoke to a few parents about my idea. I took their feedback. So I refined it. When it started out, it was a completely different thing. The way I see it today is a totally different form of it. Shamna, next slide. Right. So how does this process work? So, see, no matter what grade you're at, so it starts from 7th grade onwards. What a child does is they need to upload their report cards. They need to take a few quizzes, which tries to assess their skills, their passion, what they're good at, what they're struggling with. Maps that to all possible career options out there, gives them about 5 career options that they could look at. On a broader scope, it will tell them that if for any one specific career option, what are the certifications they would need to do over a period of time to get there, what are the top colleges and universities which are offering that, what are the additional skills that they would need to hone up on. It would also give them information about the career per se, what are the pay scales that they can expect, what is the hierarchy in terms of career that they could expect with that specific option. So that is the same for schools and colleges.
So
yes.
I have a few questions here. And I have thoughts that you're triggering as you're speaking. Let me just share some of that with you. I like the fact that you're focusing on the underserved community because, I have seen business plan after business plan of catering to how to improve math and science and so forth. That's where a huge amount of the investment goes. Now, you're talking about a different category of students or children who have a different type of skill set, maybe learning disability, maybe different kinds of aptitude. I don't know if you're familiar with a Harvard development psychologist called Howard Gardner. If you are not, you may want to look up his work. He has this framework called multiple intelligence, and he talks about different kinds of intelligence. What you call learning disability could just be a different kind of intelligence. A child who's not necessarily the mathematics whiz could have great talent as a dancer. So people have different types of skill set, and tapping into those skill sets and figuring out what is the right career path with a child who has a different skill set than the standard ones, the engineering, medicine path that typically children in India are steered towards, is actually a very interesting way to think about things. So I would kind of ask you to zone in on a few types of careers. And kind of, you're talking about asking for people's report cards and stuff. Let me encourage you to think about just kind of, okay, let's say you have identified that there are these 5 different career paths, and I'm just going to rattle out some examples. These may not be the ones you'll focus on eventually. I'm just using these as placeholders. One could be the entertainment industry, whether it's dance or music or media, some kind of theater, whatever. One could be hotels, hotels and hospitality. That includes skills as chefs, skills as, hospitality professionals and so forth. And you could pick maybe 3 or 4 other areas like that. You could create a whole, application and the way you're thinking about bringing this to market around those careers. You could then go to schools and say, okay, which ones of your students are not these hotshot math, science, kind of kids? And where are they? Where are their parents? Can we start working with those kids and try to figure out what their natural gifts are and steering them in a different direction? And if you start that early, early like 13, 14, 12, 13, 14, then you actually can impact them at a point where their self-esteem is not destroyed. Because the Indian education system traditionally has been merciless. If you're not good in math and science and are not at the top of your class from an IQ point of view, people's self-esteem are squashed, basically. So I think that's the way you want to think about it, and then you want to pick which disciplines you want to really specialize in.
Okay. All right. I'll definitely think about that. That's a good point. So can I just tell you this next few?
So.
Okay.
Go on. Yeah.
Yeah. I also wanted, of course, it's going to be fee-based, but then I would also want, there's a specific thing, a specific application which is part of Empower, which is called a mentorship program, which means if they so a child says, okay, I would like to know what, for example, wildlife photographer does. So we connect them to a 25, 30, 20-minute WebEx session where they get to speak to somebody who's an experienced professional in that specific field. So they would just tell them a day in their life, what do they do, what are the challenges they face, what are the pros and cons, how did they get to where they are at. And then, of course, leave the room open for the child to ask whatever questions, or the parents, if they want to ask a few questions, they want to know more. This can give a child a better sense because, children are very good dreamers. And they are at a stage where they think that they can achieve anything. But their interests also change over a period of time. So at a certain stage, if they say, yes, I like this, you also need to know what is in store for you as you go forward. Yeah. And it is also, this is basically not selling to a child. It's also selling to their parent. And primarily for an Indian landscape, it's selling more to the parent than to the child. Because
it's always education apps that cater to the age group you're talking about is always selling to the parents because the children have no budget to buy it with. So you will have to convince the parents that this is something that is good for their child.
Right. So that is another feature. And then I just randomly, because I cannot see that far ahead. I just split it up into a 5-year, a 8-year, a 10-year plan. Basically, what it means is that Empower app should, in the long term, evolve into much more, an online platform for them to have a sort of a peer-to-peer networking for students to interact with children from other schools, an online place where they can read up on new things.
Don't worry about what will happen when you're becoming successful, because becoming successful is already a very difficult thing to do. So let's figure out how you're going to put one foot before the other and become successful to begin with. How are you going to figure out what is the right customer base? What is the product that is going to appeal to that customer base? How do you validate? How do you design that product? How do you gain engagement? Remember the conversation we just had with Rahul, how he is saying that for consumer apps, what they're looking for in the early stages is to see if the product can generate engagement. And then we'll worry about how to get it in the hands of more people. But first and foremost, you have to figure out what constitutes a product that can generate engagement. That's what you should focus on.
I think giving a space for parents to actually see that there is way more things out there that the child could try, which is something that a child already has a certain passion or certain innate talent for. It gives parents hope more than anything else.
That's right. And I think it's the thing that I like about this here is that if you create a business strategy such that, schools kind of work with you such that they identify which kids do not have aptitude in math and science and need to be steered differently, and they kind of bring you together with the parents of those child so that those child can find a good path to self-actualization. That may be a very doable thing. You're going to have to figure out which schools are willing to work with you in this mode, and the parents who have this issue of bringing up a child that is different, that is not the hotshot math and science child. And I think that, so I would say, I think you're very early in your concept, but it is a concept
Right.
worth developing. And so start developing, start designing a product, start engaging a handful of schools that can give you input, start engaging parents who will give you this input, and start designing the product.
Right. So if you were to go to my last slide, one of the questions that I had was, is this idea worth executing? So I think you answered that. Thank you so much. The other big challenge for me, because see, this didn't start yesterday. This has been in my mind for quite some time, because I've been struggling with a child for 8 years, and it's not been easy. And the point is, A, I'm not tech savvy. B, I don't have the money which is required, because obviously you need to build it. Yes, there's a lot of groundwork, and that is where my skills will help in convincing people. I've been in customer service. I know how to charm. I know how to talk. I know how to convince. I know that's my strong suit. But I don't have tech skills required, and unfortunately, tech skills are the ones which really cost you money more than anything else.
This is a classic scenario where having a tech-savvy co-founder would be helpful. So you have worked in the technology industry for a long time. Look around and see who's somebody you have good chemistry with, you trust, and who's also entrepreneurial and looking for an idea to execute on, and finds, resonates with your ideas, and go find a co-founder. And then in terms of learning how to put one foot before the other, how to bootstrap and all that, that's something you can learn at 1Mby1M. But you will need to find somebody who can do the technology work. Otherwise, you're going to have to hire people to do that work, which is expensive.
Right, it is. All right, okay. So you think the best way forward is to start off with a technology background?
Yes.
So, I'm just laying out here. You tell me if I'm wrong. I think ideally there should be 3 partners. Somebody with a tech background, and another person, maybe a mentor. I don't know, a partner, somebody from the education background too. Who can really give us because of course it's for kids and it has to do with education. So on some level, maybe having somebody, I don't know, do we need a partner? Do we need a mentor? What do you think?
Well, what you need is somebody who's going to help you design the product. So now, there are 2 ways of doing that. You need to learn the methodology of how you design a product. You come from the pre-sales and customer service side. You haven't designed a product yet. So what you need is somebody who knows how to design a product. So if you can find somebody in your orbit who knows how to scope out a product and design a product, and somebody who can build the product from a technology skills point of view, that would be your ideal combination. That person does not necessarily have to be from the education background. Could be, that would be a bonus, but what you really need is somebody who knows how to scope out a product.
Okay. All right.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Vanessa Mwangale, are you on the call? Vanessa?
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much. I think I'm ready to start.
Please go ahead. Let's hear what you're working on. Nairobi, Kenya. It's very much on my list of places to visit.
Yes. Welcome. So I am Vanessa Mwangale. I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, and I'll be walking through some of the work that we're doing with the company Startup Recruit.
Okay.
So maybe just to give a little background about myself and how the idea came about. So my actual career line is within the startup world. I, for a living, actually grow and scale startup organizations. I've done this for a period of about 6 years in a variety of industries, from e-commerce to technology to health. And a running theme throughout our career was that there was a very real need to ensure that we actually had the correct staff when we needed them. But because we were growing organizations at the time, we're not able to, for example, recruit large-scale recruitment agencies and be able to filter out these staff and be able to get really the talent that we needed to scale at that particular time. Secondly, we also realized that there was a very low incidence of women within the entrepreneurship world, simply because some of the entry-level positions, for example, are a little bit biased towards male recruitment, and we just found that there were not enough resources or a larger push to ensure diversity within our recruitment. And that startup was born. Next slide, please. Sorry, next after that. Next, thank you. So in a nutshell, our solution pretty much links entrepreneurs to opportunities. And we do this through two platforms. One platform is a web platform called Startup Recruit, where it's an online marketplace where both employers and potential employees can actually come on, post a job, post their consulting businesses, and actually link each other to the opportunities available. And then Half for Africa is actually a digital application where we provide women with opportunities through our knowledge base, opportunities to events that are hosted by other women that just talk through their careers both within entrepreneurship and also within existing industries. Next slide, please. So in terms of why we exist, there are two key headline numbers that we always center ourselves on. So Kenya as a country has a 40% unemployment rate. On a yearly basis, we graduate about 400,000 new graduates. And with an unemployment rate of about 40%, 65% of that number is actually held by women with unemployment. And even worse, 9 out of every 10 unemployed Kenyans is below the age of 35. So, sorry, next slide, please. What our platforms are trying to do is make sure that we're able to actually rephrase what work looks like in Kenya. We're trying to help our youth think outside the box with regards to traditional employment and try and center ourselves in more of an entrepreneurship mindset and see how we can leverage our over 1.5 million SMEs and see how we can make sure that there's a transfer of knowledge from both school and also there's a clear line of resources with regards to how these organizations can scale and utilize these new skills as they move up to the market. Next slide, please. So our solution is threefold. One, we want to ensure that there's some kind of access to talent for these fast-growing organizations that are moving quite quickly and need to be able to get access to talent quite rapidly. Two, we want to ensure that there's some kind of visibility for young entrepreneurs that are starting out in their skills. They're freelancing, doing web development, doing consultancies, but how do they make sure that they're able to get into a centralized platform where they can actually showcase their skills and get an easier link to opportunities with employers? Third, we want to make sure that we can actually create a knowledge base where young entrepreneurs can find out, one, how they can start a business, how they can scale a business, what to expect when they come into a startup world, because it's not a traditional employment world. So our solution is threefold, and it is encompassed within our two platforms. Next slide, please. So just walking through what Startup Recruit actually does. It allows a user to log onto the site and browse through a host of jobs ranging from a variety of industries such as e-commerce, customer care, marketing, IT. Two, it allows a user, such as a business, to actually post a job, for example, a freelance job, if it's web design or looking for part-time work, etc. They're able to do that relatively easily. And third, we talked about visibility for young and budding entrepreneurs. They're able to come in, post their consultant profiles, post some of their portfolio of works, and just easily create some kind of awareness of their skill set and their availability. Next slide, please. So in terms of our pricing, and this is pretty new, we're trying to find out how we can better monetize both of our platforms. And for now, we're only monetizing Startup Recruit, which is the web portal. And we have 4 main pricing streams, and the last one, I apologize, is 15 USD. With the key differentiator between these different pricing schemes is how much we're able to actually highlight the businesses and what level of effort we're able to actually pronounce in the different jobs that are being highlighted. Maybe something key to note would be like for our final tier 3, that would be 15 USD, and that will actually include paid social media adverts on our social media pages, up to a maximum of 5 USD per advert. Next slide, please. So this is just a glance of what the Half Africa app looks like. It's a very basic app. It's 7 MB as you download it, and it has 3 main tabs. First one is on the events, so they're women-centered events that people can actually apply to, join a cohort, and actually just listen to some of the learnings from other women that have come before them in the various industries. The second tab goes through tutorials, so whether it's a playbook on how entrepreneurs can learn to be more agile when looking for jobs, or what to expect as they join the employment world. And then the third is actually a directory of women-led businesses within the region that they can gain access to. Next slide, please. Yes. So from our end, we have quite a few questions. The first is whether or not we're being too broad in terms of our targeting. 2 would be if we really are exhausting ways that we could be looking at our revenue streams. 3 would be what kind of funding opportunities we should be looking at or taking advantage of. And then the fourth one, which you've really grappled with, is whether or not we're actually focusing on too much at the same time, because we are doing quite a bit and it does sound quite expansive. So we wanted to get some feedback from your end on what you think of it all. Thank you.
So Vanessa, first and foremost, I'm thrilled that you found us and made your way here so we could have this discussion. What I see here is, yes, it is a bit broad and it's a bit generic, and I would like you to focus on some more specific things where I think you would have a lot more success. And I'm going to give you some pointers that you may want to explore and see how that pans out. So the first question that comes to my mind is, what is the pool of trained job seekers that you are tapping into? Because there is, maybe there are graduates of colleges and universities with generic skills, but the fit with what employers are looking for is not necessarily what these institutions are equipping the students with, which is why they're not finding jobs. So my take would be, if you focus on certain skill sets where I think where based on analysis, you know that there are jobs, and you kind of plug both ends of those skill sets, right? So you go work with training companies or training institutes that train for those skills, and then you work with employers who are hiring for those skills. And they may or may not be startups. They don't have to necessarily be startups. But I think if you go very specific into skill sets, I think you would have a lot more success. And in that case, I think employers would pay to post the jobs if you are bringing on people with the right skill sets. And then if that is the framework, now let's get down to some specific, issues. There are, for example, there are platforms like Salesforce.com has a platform, Force.com, and there's a whole developer ecosystem around this platform. HANA, SAP's HANA is a platform around which there's a whole developer ecosystem for these platforms. So are there companies in Kenya who train in those types of platform technology skills? And I could give you a list of 50 companies who have platforms as a service, and if you start building expertise around those developers who can develop on those platforms and start bringing them together and then plugging them to employers who are looking to hire that kind of people, that I think would be interesting.
Okay.
And there may be other such more specific, much better targeted, much more constrained opportunities. And frankly, I wouldn't worry so much about doing something specifically women hiring women kind of thing. I would focus on getting these women trained in the right skill set so that they can be hired by whomever, right? Your point is to reduce unemployment in Kenya. Your point is to reduce unemployment across the board, the female unemployment, the youth unemployment, everything. And the way to do that is going to be getting people skilled in the right skills and plugging them into the people who are trying to hire those skills. And you have to very strategically pick which skills do you want to go after.
Okay.
So I think it's doable. We have a ton of knowledge about this. If you decide that you need help, you're very welcome to use 1Mby1M to build this company. I think we will be able to help you, but I think you need to be a lot more focused and a lot crisper in your positioning.
Agree. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Anna Sorch, you're up next.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. I wasn't sure. I'm so sorry for spamming the chat. I didn't mean to. I meant to wrote Maureen, but so sorry.
No problem.
Anyway, so hello to everyone. I'm here to talk about ALVUM, Personalized Gut Health. My name is Ana Sord, and I live in Barcelona, Spain. And I have this is my second company, and I co-founded it with my sister, Alba Sord. And basically, a little bit of introduction about me. I'm a nurse, and I was working in hospitals like any other nurse, and I noticed that we were doing things very much like the old days, and that we needed to, that was about 8 years ago, and that we needed to make things different in the nursing world, and I decided to create my first company, which is about gamification and like how to get people engaged more, because I was doing a lot of training on this. And then this is my second company. So basically what we're doing here, as you can see, is we do gut solutions for people who does not have an answer on the healthcare system today. So the solutions that we at ALVUM have include a tracking app called The Energy by ALVUM, which people can download and they can follow how they are doing in their visits to the bathroom, as well as their habits, so eating and exercising and state of mind. We also have a product, a first product that we're currently beginning to test now, prototype, which is intolerances. So we know that in healthcare we take care of allergies, but some food intolerances we don't really know how to deal with them. So this product allows people to follow a diet in order to understand which food they have an intolerance to. And then we are working also on the microbiota product by ALVUM, which is going to help people, first of all, understand how their bacteria in their stomach, how is it going, what the populations are, and which ones are bigger and which ones are smaller. And then we also give them a follow-up for a whole year of what they should be eating, what they shouldn't be eating in order to restore these intestinal flora that we all have. So next slide. So who are we targeting? We're actually targeting 15% of the population who have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. So why is this syndrome relevant? Well, it's a syndrome that in healthcare is when you get to this point, when you get diagnosed with this, which takes about 5 years in average. Unfortunately, to diagnose this, we have to eliminate other diseases that we do know how to treat in healthcare. When we get to irritable bowel syndrome, basically what you get told is, so you should eat better, do exercise, and do not stress, because it's very related to stress as well. So people are very frustrated because they don't have a pill they can take or something like that. And what's also very frustrating, hence why the depression and anxiety numbers are so high with these people, is like it affects their quality of life a lot. They cannot eat out. They cannot go to the movies if it's Avengers is 3 hours long. Well, am I going to make it to the bathroom if I go to see Avengers? I mean, it's just very hard to live with it. So it also is, funny enough, it targets people under 50. So most people that have IBS get it before they are 50 years old. So it's 25 to 45, which suits also for the smartphone life of doing things and digital life of doing things. And as I mentioned before, the medication is less than 6% because there's no way to treat these easily. Okay, next slide. So how does the ALVUM microbiota work? Basically, you have to do a little test. Then you download the app where you can track your bowel movements and the behavior that you're doing. And with that in, then we send you a little package home for you to send a swab to the lab. And then with the information that the lab gives us about your bacteria in your intestine, plus the information that we get through the app that you're giving us for 2 weeks, that information, we put it together through our system, and we give you personalized advice on the state of how your microbiota is and where we want it to be and how to get there. And we follow you through a year. So this is a subscription-based program that you can get into. Okay, next slide. So as I've mentioned, this initially is a B2C product. So we are very focused on like how we will gain these people through B2C. Fortunately, my co-founder and sister, Alba, is a marketing specialist. So we do have a very big and clear conversion funnel on how we're going to do this with the content marketing, SEO, and the micro-influencer marketing and all that stuff. We will also be using Google Ads and Facebook Ads, which through our numbers that we've run, for every $1 that we invest in ads, we're going to get $3.65 in return. So the average is pretty good. Okay, next slide. We released the app in the end of February 2019. We're a very, very early startup, and we haven't done any marketing on the app whatsoever because we're creating the other products at the moment. So we have 750 downloads, mailing list with over 300 contacts. Many people have already shown that they are interested in getting either the intolerances, which is the one that we're prototyping with the people who's interested in Barcelona because we need to prototype it locally. And then also for the people who want the microbiota testing. And we have users in over 10 countries. However, we will start in Spain and do the proof of concept in Spain before moving to other countries. And we've been featured, and
Anna?
we have about 6. Yes.
Can we stay on the slide for a moment? I'd like to talk about a few things that you present here.
Perfect.
750 app users. Is it 750 app downloads or 750 app users, active users?
Yeah, so it's 750 downloads, and about half of it is active users.
Okay, half of it is active users. And the 6-minute average app use time, so the half of the 750 are using this. The 6-minute average time is based on that data of how much they're using.
So basically, in the app, they not only like track things, they have also of a healthy lifestyle. So there is people who come to the app and use like everything, and that elongates a lot the use time. But if they just come in and track, they take about 2 minutes. But the average is 6 minutes. At the moment, it's very high, the average, but it should be going down. We've been seeing it go down, obviously, the more people are recurrent to the app. So
and are you
gone down
in a position right now, if somebody wanted to subscribe to your services for all these things that you presented earlier, like, second. So you have this $49 subscription, then you have this $250 a year subscription. Are people able to buy these right now? Are you set up to be able to offer this?
Not yet. The intolerances, we're prototyping it now. So we hope to be able to offer it online soon. We have a ALVUM.com website where people will be able to buy this. And the microbiota, we hope to release it by November 2019.
Okay.
So having it prototyped before.
Got it. All right. So we don't have any validation for whether people are buying any of this stuff yet.
Exactly. We only have the interest. The people that have subscribed, they have subscribed because they want the information about the products that we will release. However, it is not paid. It's just information.
Yeah. So you were asking the question about B2B2C versus B2C. It really depends on, is there a viable B2B2C channel out there? What do you have in mind? Is it employers? Do you want to go through employers? What are you thinking?
So we were discussing this. We've come up with a couple of solutions. See if you have any more. More than welcome. We've been thinking. So the patient associations might be one good point to go to because we think that it can be a good point for people to start. Many of these people feel very frustrated, so they look for the patient associations to get in touch. So we've got in touch with them. And we also thought, for example, also one of the first choices for these type of patients when they are running out of stamina to work on this, one of the things that they do is they go to nutritionists to get a specialized diet. So we also thought about going to the nutritionist groups and offer them this solution.
So you have to test those channels. B2C per se is very expensive to acquire these customers. You're quoting numbers, but you don't really know because you haven't really validated. Your product is not out there yet. You have a very well thought through slide, which I assume is prepared by your sister who's skilled in this kind of marketing, but we don't know whether these numbers are true or not. So there, you can test it, but the reality is if you can get an effective B2B2C solution, that would be interesting. But let me ask you something else, at least for the beginning, just to get the product out there and validated. Are there Facebook groups where people with this kind of problems gather to discuss their issues?
That's another good point. So I was like a couple of weeks ago in Madrid, and I was discussing this with a group of people who's also helping us, and it came up that one of the participants had a sister who had these issues because it's 15% of the 15% of the population, so everybody knows someone, and they actually did have they do have like a big Facebook group. I think she said it was over 15,000 people that were there, so it was like a massive group. So that's definitely something that we're also looking at. For the prototype,
because that would be bang on. If you can tap into a group that is already tuned to this kind of problems or discussing this kind of problem, that would be the perfect place for you to go and launch this into and start getting lots of feedback with all the entire offering, your free solution and the 2 tiers of paid solutions. We can get it all out there and get the feedback and understand the engagements. Right now, you really don't need to think about scaling this thing. First and foremost, you need to have a validated solution. The answer to your question, in healthcare, do investors look for validated solutions? Absolutely. Your kind of business will only be fundable if there is validation available. So I think this is something that you absolutely need to validate. And if you could get access to a sizable Facebook group that is already tuned to this problem, that would be an ideal place to go to do the validation exercise.
Awesome. I have a question. When you say validated, I imagine it is like validated with the market, like the market has seen it, has used it, has said it's good. Okay. It's not like a validation as a scientific validation.
That you have product market fit. You need engagement data. You need to show that what you are saying you're going to be able to do, you are doing, and the customers are responding, and all of that. So you need to show like intense customer immersion and feedback from the market.
Right. And regarding the question of validation, besides validation, do investors also look for scientific proof of this? Because obviously that takes a much longer route and so on and so forth. And since we're not a diagnostic, we don't actually really need it legally.
Investors look to see whether this product works or not, if there's product market fit or not, if you know how to design a product that can command $250 a year kind of consumer subscription fee. That's what they're investing in, right? An investor is investing in that. So they need to know that you can design a product that can command that kind of pricing.
Yeah, and that can help people. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Folks, if you're enjoying this program, if you think what we're doing is valuable, I have an ask from you. Bring serious entrepreneurs into the program. We are always looking for serious entrepreneurs trying to build serious businesses. We met 3 of them here today. That was awesome. So bring more of them in. In terms of resources, everything we do, everything we offer is available at 1Mby1M.com. You will find a terrific blog that is available for free. Just reading that is going to teach you a lot. We have the Entrepreneur Journeys book series, a series of 12 books. All of them are case study based, all available on Amazon. You can learn from those as well. These are free roundtables available every week almost. So by all means, use them, come to them, listen to the recordings, use this body of work that is great learning material. Our full acceleration program is 1M1M Premium. And there we offer extensive methodology guidance, a full online curriculum. We offer you strategy consulting very similar to what we experienced today, but in private roundtables for our premium members only. We help you with business development where we have contacts. Our Rolodex is available to the premium members. And then we help you with financing. Of course, there's a caveat to that. You have to be ready for financing to be introduced to investors. But along the way, whatever help you need, you don't need to be ready for financing to join the program. You need to be willing to work towards whatever objective you're working with and take the help, the mentoring, the learning that we offer to make progress. And if and when you're ready for financing, we do have a terrific network of investors that we can introduce you to. And then we have a lot of clout in the media, so we can help you get the word out through media relations. We recommend that you go to the 1M1M self-assessment on the website. There's a questionnaire. These are questions investors would ask you. You please ask these questions of yourselves about your business so that you are ready strategically to be able to address the questions that you will get asked when you go in front of investors. If you get stuck on methodology points, 1M1M Basic is our curriculum-only option. It's only $99 a month, and you can go plug your knowledge gaps. It's a very effective way to get going. So go to the website, dig around, see, read up about the different parts of the program and see if this program is for you. There are FAQs, video FAQs, lots of information, full description of the curriculum, which is all case study based. The curriculum has over 1,000 successful entrepreneur case studies. That includes 100+ unicorns, 400+ venture funded companies, another 400+ bootstrap companies. And we have synthesis of methodology through the video lectures. So you will learn a lot. You'll basically get to stand on other people's shoulders who have succeeded already and are generously sharing what they've learned in their journey. And that's what you get to learn from. That's what this program is all about. Our methodology is lean, capital-efficient bootstrap startups. You bootstrap first and raise money later, and that's because that's the way the industry operates. Investors want you to bootstrap first, get to validation before they're willing to put in serious amounts of funding. And that's it. We have, so this summer, we have 4 more roundtables, July 25th, August 1st, August 8th, and August 29th. And we have also in-person rendezvous in Menlo Park, July 24th, August 7th, September 4th. So if you're in Silicon Valley or visiting Silicon Valley, come by for a chat. And now we're ready for Q&A. So you can ask questions in the public chat. You can dial into the call and ask questions. Any of those are fine. And while you're doing that, let me introduce you to Irina Patterson, my colleague at 1Mby1M, who will answer any question you might have. She's very patient and very knowledgeable about this program. So any questions about the program, you can ask her. Questions, comments, introductions, folks? Anna and Alba, I really like what you're doing. I think it's a real problem, and if you can figure out the solution, if you can design a product that really addresses the solution, it's a really interesting opportunity. Same with Soya. I really like what you have. What is the problem that you have identified? I really like it. Vanessa, you too. I think all three of you have identified very interesting problem domains, and each of you will need to navigate. You're going to need to focus. You're going to need to validate. You're going to need to, navigate well. But I think all the projects are interesting projects. Let me see. So yeah, your question is, so at what stage will this curriculum be a right fit? It's a right fit right now. The sooner you start following the curriculum and the methodology, the better. Even in the ideation stage, I would rather you follow the curriculum and the methodology and put one step before the other in the right order than running off in tangents and, wasting time on things that you shouldn't be doing. Even while you're looking for another partner, a co-founder, you should start learning how to build a business yourself. And do that while I know you're doing a bootstrapping with a paycheck situation. That is an ideal scenario where you hold on to your job and start learning how to build the business, and the curriculum is perfect for that. Anybody else? Questions, comments, anybody wants to call in? Anna, did I say that? Yes, the first panelist, she's not a technical person. That's why I suggested she gets a co-founder so that somebody can help her develop the product. She would not be able to launch this company without somebody doing the product. She won't be able to do that herself. In case she already had a company and she had an ideal co-founder, how much of the company could she give out? It really depends on whom you're bringing on and what is how critical is it, and how much expertise are you bringing on board? In her case, if it's a really great technical person who, between the two of them, they can launch the company, they could split the company 50-50, or if it's a three-way split, she's talking about bringing a third co-founder who's the product person, they could split the company 33% each. That would be fine. But you have to really get to clarity on what each person is bringing to the table and what is the level of commitment. There's a difference between a real co-founder who's really going to work for equity and really do the heavy lifting and bring serious expertise versus a pseudo co-founder. You sometimes give people a co-founder title because that's what motivates them, but they're not really bringing in the same level of expertise or same level of commitment that you are bringing in which case you give them a lot less equity and treat them differently. There's actually a module on co-founder hiring in the curriculum where I discuss some of these issues. Yes, the company is zero money at the moment. That is correct. It's a highly subjective topic, unfortunately. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right. Well, it was thrilling to see three female co-founders, or three female entrepreneurs, not co-founders, actually two female co-founders and then three female entrepreneurs. All of that is very exciting for me to see that you guys are moving right along. So I'll see you next week, and meanwhile, make a lot of progress. Bye-bye.